In this video I'm going to be ranking my top 50 favorite albums of 2023. I've listened to a lot of music this year, and I want to share some suggestions for people who are looking for new music or want to get into listening to more music. Before I start the list, I should mention that I am primarily a rock fan and I gravitate towards rock music, so I have a little bit of bias in that, but I try to listen to everything. I try to consider all genres, but just keep that in mind. This is a top 50, so we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to go fairly quick for the first 40 or so. Number 50, I have After the Magic by Parannoul, which is Korean shoegaze rock. If you're into rock or anything shoegazy, this is a good listen. At 49, I have Aesop Rock's Integrated Tech Solutions. This is a very good, abstract, experimental hip-hop album. At 48, I have Guts by Olivia Rodrigo, one of my favorite mainstream pop releases of the year. I thought it was really good, and I really like some of the songs on this one. At 47, I have the emotion-packed Caroline Polachek, Desire I Want to Turn Into You. This is a pop album if you're into pop. At 46, another pop album, Kali Uchis, Red Moon and Venus. This one was very good. Hyperpop Sweethearts 100 Gecs returned with 10,000 Gecs, which is a very fast and energetic hyperpop album. At 44, I have the Lemon Twigs with Everything Harmony. This is a good blend of rock, pop, and folk. And I wasn't expecting much from this album, but I really liked it. At 43, I have Maps by Billy Woods and Kenny Segal. This is an experimental hip-hop album from the duo. And Billy Woods just had a crazy year. He had 2 albums which are on my top 50. And this was one of them. Very good album from Billy Woods and Kenny Segal. At 42, I have Space Heavy by King Krule. This is a post-rock, I guess you would call it. Yeah, it's good. Kind of depressing, but very good album. Next, we have Amaarae with Fountain Baby. Just a really good pop singer-songwriter album. At 40, I have Slauson Malone 1 with Excelsior. This is a very good down-tempo, lo-fi, rap, hip-hop album. At 39, I have the first of the 2 King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard albums this year with Petro-Dragonic Apocalypse. This is some pretty good death metal with great riffs. Another great one from King Gizzard. At 38, Yves Tumor releases one of the more underrated alternative rock albums of the year. Next, I have The Record by Boygenius. I wasn't a huge fan of this when it came out, but since then I've listened to more of their solo stuff, and I liked it a lot better on second listen. Next, I have the second album this year from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. This one is called The Silver Chord. It's very electronic, but has some really good cuts on it. Really enjoyed this one. At 35, I have Cousin by Wilco. I liked this a lot more than some people did. I thought it was a really good return from Wilco, and not quite as good as some of their best, but still really great. At 34, Portugal the Man continues to be one of my favorite guilty pleasure bands with Chris Black's Changed My Life. Some really fun, energetic songs on this one. At 33, I have the second Billy Woods album on this list, where he teams up with producer Lucid as Armand Hammer with We Buy Diabetic Test Strips. Some really good industrial hip-hop from them. Next, I have the hip-hop/pop album from Genesis, Owusu, which is Struggler. This one was really fun. At 31, I have Jason Isbell in the 400 unit with Weather Vanes, one of my favorite country albums from this year. It's bringing some new flavor and life to the country genre. Next, I have the trippy psychedelic rock trip that is I Killed Your Dog by Lorraine. Then I have Black Country New Roads' live album, Live at Bush Hall. While this is a live album, it's entirely new music, so this was fun to hear some new music after the departure of their lead singer. At 28, Foo Fighters sounds better than ever on But Here We Are after the death of drummer Taylor Hawkins. This is a very personal album with some really great moments on it. Next, I have the aggressive hip-hop album Mid-Air by Paris, Texas. This one was very fun and upbeat. Next, I have the noise rock band Sprain with The Lamb as Effigy. Shortly after releasing this album, the band discontinued, so this will be their last album ever. Next, I have jazz pop singer-songwriter Laufey with Bewitched. This was a really fun album with some good bossa nova and jazz cuts on it. Next, I have the new album from Frango Eletrico, which is called
Me chama de gato que es Owusu.
That. This is a really fun Latin pop, rock, funk album. Really fun, really energetic, great album from Anna. Next, I have 93696 by Liturgy. If you're into black metal, experimental metal, instrumental metal, this is for you. It's very melodic. I really recommend this one. At 22, shoegaze legends Slowdive return with Everything Is Alive. Thought this one was a really good return to form from them. Nas may be 50 now, but he sounds as good as ever with Magic 2. Very good hip-hop album from him. Next I have singer-songwriter, folk artist Kara Jackson with Why Does the Earth Give Us People to Love? Really unique vocal delivery and really interesting and fun songs. Next I have 3D Country by Geese. Geese blends rock with country to make a really fun dad rock album. At 18 I have This Is Why by Paramore. I've never been a huge Paramore fan, but I thought this album was really good and was a fresher breath air compared to some of their earlier stuff. At 17, McKinley Dixon, Beloved Paradise Jazz, some of the best hip-hop you'll hear that came out this year. Really great album from McKinley Dixon. At 16, Mitski releases one of the best indie albums of the year with The Land Is Inhospitable and So Are We. Next I have Failed at Maths by Panchiko. If you've never heard of Panchiko, you can probably tell from the title that they are British. But also they released something in 2000 that was kind of an underground piece, and some people found it, and now they're back together, and this is the first thing they've released in over 2 decades. At 14 I have Saved by Kristin Michael Hayter. This is her first album under this name, formerly Lingua Ignota. This album is very religious, kind of angry, but really fascinating, and I really like this one. At 13, I have one of the biggest albums of the year. Travis Scott comes back after 5 years to release Utopia. I really liked this one. That was one of the best mainstream hip-hop releases of the year. Next, I have Wall Socket by Underscores. This album does a great job blending driving rock riffs with more electronic samples and sounds. Next I have one of my favorite rappers, Danny Brown, with Quaranta. This was very unlike some of his earlier works and some of his more critically acclaimed stuff, but I thought this was a really good album from Danny. Kicking off the top 10, I have everybody's favorite indie sad boy, Sufjan Stevens, with his new album Javelin. One of the most shockingly good albums of the year, Lil Yachty's Let's Start Here. Really great psychedelic rock album. A lot of my favorite songs of the year were off of this album. This was one I went back to quite a bit. Next I have one of my favorite rock bands, Queens of the Stone Age, with In Times New Roman. The early 2000s rock band is still putting as much punch into their music as ever. Really great one from them. Next I have the Norwegian singer-songwriter Susanne Sundfør with Blomi. I don't know if I'm saying any of that right. I don't speak Norwegian. But really good singer-songwriter folk album from Susanne Sundfør. Next I have Anoni and the Johnsons with My Back Was a Bridge for You to Cross. In this album, Anoni addresses the issues with the world and the country. Basically says that we need to do something to change. In my opinion, this album is super underrated, really great, and I think it'll age very well with time. Kicking off the top 5, I have the collaboration between Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia. This is my favorite hip-hop album of the year. It was really fun, and just really out there, and I love Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia, and they brought out the best in each other in this album. Legendary post-rock band Swans comes back with The Beggar. I think this album is up there with some of their finest works, and I really enjoyed this new one from Swans. And number 3, I have the new dance pop album from Jessie Ware, That Feels Good. I'm shocked by how much I like this one. Really fun dance pop music, and I go back to this quite a bit. And number 2, I have one of my favorite rock bands right now, Squid, with O Monolith. The singer has a very unique voice, and they have a very distinct sound with long songs with driving guitar riffs and great drum work. I thought this was as good, if not better, than their first album, Bright Green Field. If you're into underground rock or even mainstream rock, I really recommend you check out Squid in this album. And finally, my album of the year is Hell Mode by Jeff Rosenstock. This is a really fresh and introspective punk rock album from Jeff Rosenstock. When making this list, I was unsure what my number 1 was going to be, but when I really thought about it, it occurred to me that there aren't really any skips on this album for me. Really love this album. Some of my favorites of the year are on this. So that concludes my top 50 list. This is just my opinion. Please comment down below if YouTube doesn't turn off comments what your favorites of the year were. If you haven't already, watch my top 50 songs of the year list. That's a good video. I definitely plan on making more music-related videos in the future on this channel.